Excellent. Thank you all for coming to another This Is Somebody conversation. And today I am here with Stella. Pronounce your last name for me, Stella.
Stella Stathi.
Stathi. I
Yes.
probably would have messed that up.
Most people do. It's tricky. I know. It's a Greek one. So
I am. That's one of my on my bucket list to go to Greece, actually.
good.
So I'm
I'm sure
so
you'll love
happy
it.
to I'm so happy to have you here today, and I'm so excited to hear all about how you help women to liberate themselves from the diet prison, and also to
Ah.
talk about your own journey. I was so excited because I am right now really having a lot of conversations about embodiment. And I know how much the diet hamster wheel can get in the way of that. So tell us a little bit about what your work is and how you came to do this delicious, useful, necessary work, and how it actually has helped you move through the world.
Absolutely. So first of all, I consider my voice quite safe. Am I doing something wrong, you think?
No, I think it probably is just the internet connection, but I don't hear your voice twice at all.
Okay, cool. So what I do, I'm a psychotherapist turned coach and mentor recently. So before I did that, I used to work with women that had eating disorders. And then what I realized, that was a very deep and rewarding work, as you can imagine. But then what I realized is that there's so many other women around that maybe will never develop an eating disorder, but statistics are quite shocking in that there's like 8 in 10 women dieting, 9 in 10 women disliking their bodies. So that was why I felt that calling to shift my focus and open the work up into the rest of the women that don't have an eating disorder as such, but have other issues with food like chronic dieting, emotional eating, binge eating, negative body image, all those issues that sadly are so very common these days. And so this is the focus of my work at the moment. And it's interesting that you mentioned embodiment from the very beginning, because it's a very central thing of what I do. So the coaching that I do is very much body-based. It's somatic coaching. It uses the wisdom of the body as its big focus. So, and I do all this work online at the moment. So I work with women all around the world, and I just love that. I love that.
Oh, I love that. So I'm interested to know, actually, I'm so glad that you started there, because I'm very interested to know what the transition from therapist to coach was like for you.
Interesting. Interesting. It was definitely a process, and it's still, in progress. I can't say that it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't change overnight. But what I love about coaching is that it becomes much freer. So I feel much freer in bringing in all the elements that I love and all the elements that basically helped me, all the practices, all the approaches, everything that's helped me heal from my own issues in the past. And coaching is much more flexible,
Yeah.
and it can accommodate all that. So this is what I love. It was interesting because I still work with clients that were therapy clients, but we have a much more, again, flexible and open foundation at the moment. And so the work is much more enriched with movement and dance and meditation and all the beautiful things that it's a little trickier to do in therapy. It's a bit more fixed and formal, if you want. So I love that. I love that freedom that coaching has.
Well, I love that you have the knowledge of the therapy piece, though, because like for me, like I often have found, I have met with several clients that, like, mid session, I'm like, you need a therapist. Like I can't help you because I'm not qualified to do that. But I love that you have the best of both worlds, because you can do both of those things. That is juicy.
That is really
Your clients
helpful.
are so lucky.
Thank you. I really agree with you, because it's not clear cut. It's not very clear, like where one finishes and the other begins, like where you need a coach and where it becomes a bit more tricky and deeper, and you need a bit of a more therapeutic approach, a bit more holding and processing and all that. So that is very, very helpful because, again, talking about therapy, it's not as if you need to have a huge, very serious mental health issue to see
Right.
a therapist or to need a therapist. It's like all of us could benefit from therapy too. So yes, I do love the combination of both worlds. It makes it much more grounded for me, more safer, if you want.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have a therapist that I've had for a long time and I adore her. But I
Yeah.
do have to also have coaching because it's just a different experience. And
Mm.
for me, like my therapist is all about healing what happened before.
Yes.
And my coach is more about helping me with what I want to do moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I love that you are like two for one. It's great. I love that.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I do believe that both are really, really important. So yes, they're both parts of what I do. Exactly that. We look back and we look forward and we stay rooted in the present. That's the whole of it.
Yes, I love that. So tell me about your own experience. Like, how did you even with therapy, like, how did you decide to go into that? Was it something from your own experience? And is that how you transitioned into doing the work that you do now?
Hmm. So, first of all, my own journey with food and body and weight and all that started very, very early on. I think I started emotionally eating when I was 7, probably, and then went to my first diet when I was 9 or 10. So, it's a lifelong process that was. Um, and then growing up, I was very, very interested in psychology, very interested in human behavior, how we function. And I was very much into helping people. And back then, I was not aware of that. I'm an empath, basically. So I do feel people's emotions. And back then, I didn't know what that was.
Mhm.
Then later on, I realized that it was something that you just have and it leads you along the way where it needs to lead you. But growing up, when I was ready to graduate from high school and go into university, then it was the time. I mean, in between, I would diet and I would eat more. There was that process going on, and then in my last year in high school, that was when I suddenly stopped eating.
Mhm.
So I just stopped eating. And you can call it extreme dieting or anything, but it was basically starvation. And so from there started the last part of the journey, which lasted for about 7 years, which was all about, bordering an eating disorder, going into anorexia, very, very negative body image. And all that was going on at that point while I was studying psychology
Mm.
at the same time. I was doing a bachelor's in psychology. So that was an interesting combination. At the same time, I was doing yoga and I was doing professional dance, and I was very much into the body,
Mhm.
but from a very different perspective. I was very much into shaping it and performing and all that side of things. So it was that journey basically, which was very long, as you can imagine. It had various stages and ups and downs, but that was what brought me to that point, that turning point that is not really a point. It's again a process.
Right.
But you reach that point and you finally realize that something is going wrong. And when I realized that, I had many different experiences around that time. And then from the point that I admitted to myself that something was really going wrong and I had to do something about it, then that was the point that the rest of the journey started, which was all about learning how to heal myself, basically, learning how to love my body, how I can accept myself on many, many levels. And that process included a almost 9 to 10 year journey of, studying, and in there was my psychotherapy training too, studying body therapy and movement and dance, but free dance at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And all those approaches that were very, very healing, and all those approaches that I brought together into what I do today.
Wow.
So in short, that was
I love that. I love your story. And the reason I love it is because we are so often called to teach what we need to learn.
Absolutely.
Like that we are almost always having the experience of what we are actually called to teach. Because I don't know that I guess it's possible. It is very possible to teach theory, because it happens all the time in university and in classrooms all over the world, right? It's possible to teach theory, but it's so different when you're teaching from the place of experience, because it really does give the receiver, who most often also is having the experience, maybe from where you were, it gives them a starting point, and it also gives them evidence of what's possible. That theory doesn't provide evidence a lot of the time,
Absolutely.
and it's a different thing to read, to read experiments and hypotheses and those kinds of things, and results, even reading results. It's not the same as hearing or witnessing an experience. It really does bring a different layer of understanding. It connects us somehow.
I couldn't agree more. And it's a totally different thing. I remember when I graduated from the psychology bachelor's, and I was saying to people, yes, it was okay, but if I gave you the exact same books that I read over those 4 years, it would be exactly the same.
Right.
You'd have made it to the same point that I did after 4 years. It was the rest of the journey, and especially when we're talking about the things that we're talking about today. So food and body, and this experience that actually goes through your body. It's an embodied experience. You have, the marks of it in the best possible way. It's inside of you. And yes, I also agree. It's that place that we often call, in psychotherapy, we used to call it the wounded healer. That wound, from the wound that you had, and that wound that you've healed or are in the process of healing, that's the place that you connect with the other person from. That's what makes it so, so powerful.
Absolutely. And there's something I know for me, I sometimes struggle if the person who, even if it's a lecture or whether it was in the classroom, if I feel like the person hasn't been where I am, or, it almost makes me feel like they are up here and I'm down here, but like when the person has been there or are going through the same thing, you kind of meet here. And it gives you a different experience of it gives you more space to receive. For me, that's my experience. Like, it makes me feel like they get it. Like they get it. They know what I'm talking about. And then it really opens up this space of receiving. I love that. It's funny how the funky stuff, the stuff that doesn't feel good, because usually what we're called to teach doesn't feel good, right? Right? We wouldn't have learned from it if it felt good most often.
Exactly.
So, but those are also like, it brings me to ask about your relationship with discomfort, because I know I have a tendency to want to rush out of discomfort. And I know most people do. When we hurt, we don't want to be with the pain. We're like, fuck the pain. I need to be done with this. Let me take a pill. Let me take a drink. Let me bite the sandwich. Whatever, self-medicating thing that we do, we don't want to be with discomfort. Did you find, or do you find that you struggle sitting with discomfort, and if so, like, how do you move through that? Look, that question is for me, because I struggle still.
Sure. I don't think I know anybody in this world that doesn't struggle with discomfort. I don't know anybody that naturally says, what a nice thing discomfort is. I don't think so. But that's such an important question, I think, because if there was, I very often think, if there was one thing that I could teach people, like one single thing, would be to stop fighting.
Yes.
So the fight and the struggle and all the tension we create around not wanting to feel something, whether it is discomfort or sadness or anger or I don't know, there's so many things that we just label negative and we want to pull away from. And this is exactly what creates the rest of it, whether it is, you know, issues with food or your body or general issues in your life. This is like the root of the problem. And we're never actually, you know, to be very fair with ourselves, we never get taught what to do with that.
No.
Yeah, nobody tells you how to sit with discomfort or with pain.
You know, they tell you to stop. Like, stop acting like that. Stop feeling like that. Stop doing that.
Yeah. Pull yourself together and just keep going. You know, you're stronger than that. Rise above that, or whatever it is. So I think, yeah. And to answer your question about myself, that was obviously a big thing in my own life too. You know, I didn't want to feel what I was feeling. So I would do anything in the world. And that's an interesting point, actually, because I think that we are familiar with the fact that we can use food, like emotional eating or binge eating or overeating, from this perspective to numb our emotions. But we don't often understand that even dieting or even, you know, attacking your body and blaming your body can be also a way to keep you from not feeling what you're actually feeling.
Absolutely.
That's why, you know, always with my clients, what I suggest is, you know, when they say I feel fat, and you know, that usual thing that fat is not a feeling, and it's not. But there's that interesting question, what else are you feeling? What else is there? If you dig a bit deeper, what is there that you don't want to feel? And you're just doing anything to just pull away from that. So that was, if I can say that, that was the biggest lesson in this whole process that I learned. And, you know, obviously I'm not a master at it, not at all. It's not like discomfort comes up or pain comes up and I'm like very embracing from the very beginning. But what happens with time is that you catch yourself more easily. So when you go into that impasse state, into that foggy state that you know something is going on, but you semi-unconsciously and semi-consciously just don't go there, it's easier to catch yourself and say, okay, let's soften a little bit into that and just sense into that. And the body is amazing. Like having the body as a tool for that is incredible. And just let's go a bit deeper and see what actually is going on right there.
Absolutely. I find so often that whatever I'm experiencing in my body is almost always a reflection of what I'm experiencing in my world. Like even this throat frogginess, this came from me talking about doing more speaking engagements this year, getting ready to pitch a talk for a conference, planning my first live workshop in a couple of weeks. You know, like because it was like, oh, my throat's feeling kind of, and then I was like, wait a minute, this is resistance. This is embodied resistance. That's what I'm experiencing. And then I said, you know, thanks, mind of mine, for trying to keep me safe, but it's not working. I'm still moving forward.
Yeah, I really empathize. You know, I empathize a lot. And I think that many people, many of us that have struggled in our lives with food and body and all that, very easily manifest whatever is happening on an emotional level through our bodies. So we just bring it down and we feel it somewhere inside. But generally, even if it's not something as big or clear,
Mm-hmm.
but it might just be something very subtle. And the more you tune into that, the more you can listen to it. Even, you know, when you're fighting, when you're in that state of impasse and not tuning in,
Mm-hmm.
there's usually a fogginess. There's usually a disconnection somewhere. So this is why the body is such an amazing tool. It never lies, basically.
At
You've got
all.
the
It doesn't
answer.
know how. It doesn't
Yeah.
know how, like, because everything is so energetic. I was just having a conversation yesterday about like not being able to tell when you're hungry. So I'm glad you're here. Like, you know, and my thought was like, if you are not clear or if you're not experiencing hunger, then you must also be disconnected from feeling in your body. And that's a symptom of numbness.
Yeah.
Because that also means that you probably are eating too fast, because you're probably also not able to tell when you're full or when you're finished. Do you see that a lot?
A lot. And I think, you know, that's one of the biggest results of one of the biggest consequences basically of dieting, because dieting is just that. You know, you train yourself to not listen, to not know when you're hungry or when you're full.
Mm-hmm.
And you just follow something that somebody else from the outside tells you when you have to eat and when you need to stop. So it's basically that process of tuning out of your body, of training yourself to just become deaf to all those signals that your body sends you all the time. And the more years you do that, the deeper the disconnection becomes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the thing is that your body is always communicating with you. So it never goes silent.
Ever.
It's just that process, that reverse process of teaching yourself how to relearn to connect with that, to listen to that, to honor that.
That is difficult for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see that a lot. You know, even in my personal life, when I'm trying not to be a coach, and I see it like with friends and stuff, that I'm like, oh, you know, like it's particularly this time of the year when there's so much conversation about dieting and wanting to get slim and trying like all the cleanses and, you know, all of the challenges, the, you know, the smoothie challenge. And not that those things are necessarily bad. Like, you know, exercise is beautiful. It's nourishing. You know, makeup is a beautiful thing if you choose to wear it. But coming from the space of I want to fix myself as opposed to this makes me feel good, is so like it's such a different experience. And I see so much of that, like with the right now, like it's so saturated because right now is like probably the diet industry's Christmas.
Very
you know,
true.
like New Year's is really like Black Friday for the diet.
Absolutely.
Everybody's in the space of I need to change, I need to fix, you know, and it's heartbreaking because, you know, you hear stuff like, I would feel better if I was 20 pounds lighter, or, you know, I'd be happy, you know, if I just could lose this belly fat. You know, and I think that it's interesting because it's interesting, like as a collective, because this is not just a Western world thing, you know, that I'm sure that there are a lot of cultures that don't have this experience and maybe they shame themselves in other ways. But, you know, it's like, so it doesn't really matter where you're from, and it doesn't really matter what your body type is. This negative conversation of needing to change ourselves. I was listening to a recording this morning, and I can't remember who the person was, but she was talking about like how we're constantly trying to be something else.
Yeah. So there's so much that is just coming in my mind through this, through what you just said. the first thing is, just like you said, yes, this is the period that everything around food and dieting and cleanses and all that is very loud.
Yeah.
It is very loud, which is a big challenge. And that's why I really think of that, of choosing to not go down that road as a big revolution. And it's not easy. It's not easy to resist when it's everywhere around you, and especially when people close to you, your friends or your family, or anybody that all the women around you do that, and they speak all about that. And that's also very common, how food and dieting and weight and all that becomes a bonding thing.
Yes.
This is the thing that we talk about. So if you take it out, what is left?
Right.
It can be really awkward and really uncomfortable.
How sad is that? And you're right, because misery is contagious. So we have such a habit of commiserating, and it's almost like gossiping about yourself, because it's like, it's like, oh my God, like I've gained so much weight, or, my jeans fit really snug and now I need to lose 10 pounds. But we don't have such, it's rare. I'm sure it happens, but it's very rare for a group of women to get together and talk about everything that's delicious and juicy that's happening in their lives.
I so agree. And that's why, I really believe in bringing women together in a space that this is the focus, that, you have people around you that have the same mindset, that have probably reached that point, which is, this is the point that when women can get drawn to me, when they've tried all that, they've tried all the diets and all the exercise and everything they could possibly do in the world, and they just see that it doesn't work on that level, that there's something going on a deeper level. And when they realize that, this is when they come to me. But when they do, I find it so important to bring them together in a space where they can come in, and when they feel that discomfort and the challenge and all the influence coming, all that energy and all that talk coming from everywhere around them, they can come in and get supported and be reminded of why they do what they do and what their experience has been, and that there are other women around that will support them in that. So this is one thing. And the other thing I was thinking about as you were talking is that the important thing, the question to ask yourself when you get tempted to try a new diet or a detox or a cleanse or all that, is why. Why do you want to do this? What are you hoping that this will bring you? And I say that because I agree with you. All of those approaches are not bad in themselves. They're not bad as such. They can be really good and help, boost your health and do nice things for you. But it's really easy when you haven't dealt with those emotional issues that are underneath everything that is going on the surface. It's really easy to try all those things for the wrong reasons.
Yes.
To lose weight, to, feel better about yourself, do it the opposite way, to turn them into another diet. It's very, very easy to turn that into another diet. So asking yourself, why do I do that? Because I want to take care of myself, because I want to feel better, or do I do it because as another form of punishment for the holiday indulgence or for anything else?
Absolutely. I'm glad that you brought that up too, because I know several women who have had like gastric surgeries and have lost weight, but because they didn't do the deep work, because fat is a symptom. It's not the cause of anything. It's just a symptom of something else. But because they didn't do the deep work, and here in the States, we're really good at putting a Band-Aid on things with medicine. We're really good at, here's a pill. I had a doctor once tell me even, you know, you qualify for weight loss surgery because your BMI is blah, 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 blah. And I said, when I look in the mirror, I don't see weight loss surgery. You know, I was like, you know, I'm sorry that I don't fit into the matrix of whatever ideal body weight is supposed to be. But because we don't have, because it's so easy, it's easier, and illness and surgeries are money making things, and it is profit. We have a profit healthcare system here in America. So I've got, you know, several girlfriends that have had these weight loss surgeries. They didn't do the deep work. And now, you know, it's 5 years or whatever. And they may not have gained all of the weight back, but they gained a lot of the weight back because the underlying condition was still present. That self-hate, that self-loathing, that father wound or that mother wound or whatever it happens to be, whatever, you know, whatever the cause that they decided to cloak themselves in fat, because sometimes it's almost an armor. I know I've done it. Absolutely. You know, I've eaten to hide, you know. So, but when you don't do the work, like, it doesn't matter, even if it's as extreme as surgery, you can still end up in exactly the same place if you don't do the work.
Thank you so much for saying that. Really, that's the core of it all. Yeah, and that's why that's my core message around everything, that, you know, it's very easy for us to say, and that was, again, going back to the transition from therapy to coaching. It's very easy when somebody has developed an eating disorder, then you can see that they need to do the deep work, right? Because you see that it's not just about food and body or exercise, calories, nutrients, all of that, but there's something deeper going on. In the day-to-day life, you know, in less serious things, issues, which I don't like the word, but when you haven't reached that extreme point of developing an eating disorder and you just, you know, diet all the time and you feel frustrated with your body, or whatever else is happening that is not so extreme, we never think about what is going on the inside. We will go to nutritionists and dietitians and try new diets and try new exercises, and we'll try everything on earth, but we will never start from the inside. Yeah. And we have this idea that if you ask somebody, why do you want to lose weight? They will reply with something along the lines of, I want to feel this and that. I want to feel beautiful, or I want to feel sensual, or I want to like myself, or I want to love myself. And that is exactly it's in the reverse way. It's the other way around. Yeah, because that is, the more you put conditions on that, the more you say, I will only accept myself if. Yes. And you will never really accept yourself, even if you get to that point, even if you lose all the weight, even if you do all the right things in the world, you will still not be accepting yourself on the deepest level. You will still be unhappy, still struggling. So this is such an important thing that I'd love for people to shift their mindset around food and body, especially women that were so naturally, by nature, attuned to our bodies, or we're made like that. We do many things to silence that, but naturally, we are very connected with our bodies. It is through the body that we go anywhere. Even, you know, we were talking about that, even spirituality is a different thing when it is embodied, and a different thing when you try to escape your body through spirituality too.
Yes, I'm glad that you brought that up too, because I firmly believe that you cannot even truly experience sensuality if you're disconnected from your body, because your soul speaks through your body. And, you know, like we have this female intuition. If you're numbed out, you can't hear it. You can't hear it because you can't trust it. You don't know what it feels like because you're not tuned in. And intuition doesn't happen in your mind. It happens in your body. So you have to, everything that we need to know is experiential. Like our whole existence is experiential, and there is no experience without the body.
I so agree. You know, a big shift for me happened when I learned how to connect with the body. So body-based approaches and somatic movement therapy and all that side of things was huge for me, because up until then I was seeing my body as my enemy. You know, I didn't want to listen to it because I didn't trust it.
Mhm.
And I thought that if I listened to it, I would get fat, I would gain weight, I would, you know, do this and that. And then when I learned how to connect to it and understand its language, I started to communicate with it, and I started trusting its guidance. And that was a huge eye-opening moment. Then it started shifting from that battleground. You know, it was an actual battleground. Anything that was going wrong in my life, I would project it on my body. It would be my body's fault. I would blame it on my body. And then I realized I started connecting with that language. And I realized it's, you know, your body's language is your soul's language. This is
Yes.
how you experience everything, your emotions, your thoughts, sensations, everything goes through the body. And it's only through this way that you can actually befriend it. You know, it's just waiting there. There's that image that your body is just waiting for you to pay attention. It's always there. It's up to
Always.
us to reach that hand.
Absolutely. Oh, I just love you. Like,
Thank you. I love you too.
yes, I love everything that you said because, like I said, I've been like really focusing on embodiment. So that brings me to pleasure because I know I discovered accidentally that the same way I struggled to sit with discomfort, I also found that I also had a struggle with sitting with pleasure. That I would want to rush out of it when something felt good. And that probably came from the expectation that bad is normal and good isn't. You know, like, because, you know, there's a lot of language that we have around, you know, waiting for the other shoe to drop or this, you know, good things don't last and those kinds of things. So I realized last year I was doing a 30-day sex challenge. And then I realized, like, oh my God, I'm rushing out of my pleasure. Like, why am I doing that? But then I also recognize in terms of embodiment that when we aren't embodying our body, that the body still craves the experience of pleasure. And when we aren't paying attention to it, and I just was listening to this in a podcast that confirmed what my thoughts were, but when we aren't paying attention to it, we have a tendency to exhibit addictive behavior like overeating and drinking too much or participating in drugs or having way too much, you know, sex for reasons that are not necessarily pleasurable, because the body is still trying to get its fill of pleasure, because we have this idea that pleasure is extra, or that pleasure is extracurricular, that pleasure is optional. Like, that pleasure isn't a normal part of the experience. So like, how do you see that a lot? Because when we are abusing our bodies, we also tend to neglect our pleasure.
Absolutely. I think this is a big missing link in everything that we do.
Me
Pleasure. Yeah. Pleasure is a big, big subject. And as you were saying about those phrases that we have, there's also this very, very interesting phrase, that of the guilty pleasure. What is your guilty pleasure? Why is pleasure guilty?
Right.
Why should those two things be connected? Yeah.
It's an oxymoron, really.
What was that?
It's an oxymoron. Guilty pleasure.
I know. I so agree. And so we also don't realize that pleasure is a need. It is actually a need. It is a body need, or a soul need, is on every level a big need. And so for some reason, and based, you know, on our upbringing too, and all the messages that we receive as we grow up, personally, in our close environment and culturally, we just shut it out. We take it out. We only allow small amounts of pleasure in our lives. And usually we allow ourselves to have pleasure only when we've been good.
Yes.
So
Because
I
we have to earn it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You have to deserve it somehow. You have to prove to yourself and to the world that you deserve pleasure.
Yes.
And what that does, when you don't allow yourself to have pleasure through food and through all the other experiences in your life, then the only way you will allow yourself to eventually have it will be through food. When you don't allow yourself to engage in activities that bring you that pleasure and really be open and receptive and take it in, then that need doesn't go anywhere. It just builds up and builds up and builds up. And at some point it explodes.
Yes.
And you give up completely and you give in completely and you go for everything. And then it becomes addictive. But it's only because you've denied it to yourself in the first place. Absolutely. And this is the paradox too, that you say also around pleasure, that we say, I will allow myself to experience pleasure or to feel sensual with my partner and feel comfortable with my partner and do this and that brings me that pleasure when I have lost this weight. Exactly. And then you don't give that to yourself. And again, the only source that you can take it from is food. The only safe source that you can take it from is food. So it actually goes the other way around completely. How can I invite more pleasure into my life now? How can I be more sensual and alive and in my body, in life in general, in sex, but also otherwise? I've got that image in my mind of making love with life, making love with everything around you. And when you get that into your body, then that becomes natural. You don't have to put any effort, any struggle to, eat less. You don't need to overeat because you've fed that need in a different way.
That is so, so true. I think I heard Amy Jo Goddard, if I'm not mistaken, either she or Alexandra Jameson say that food becomes our safe sex.
Yeah, exactly.
When we are depriving ourselves of pleasure, and you're absolutely right, because once you tune in, like I've had the experience of once I tuned into my own body, then my body tells me when it needs to eat something green. It also asks me for chocolate. Like, it'll say, but in that, chocolate is my favorite thing. Like, I don't like fruity candy. I like good chocolate. But I can also recognize, like, if I go to the refrigerator and I just get one square of chocolate because my body says, hey, Stacy, wouldn't chocolate be nice right now? And I say yes. And I go get this square. Now, if the craving comes back within a short period, so usually I can eat a square, maybe I might eat 2 squares a day. Very simple. But if I feel compelled to eat a whole chocolate bar, then one of two things is happening. Either there's too much yeast in my body and I'm feeding that, or I'm horny and I'm actually not in the space of wanting to give myself sexual pleasure. And I'm substituting it with chocolate. And now I have the awareness to pay attention to those patterns, because because it's a different feeling when it's like, I need more chocolate. Then I'm like, wait a minute, this is not about chocolate.
Exactly.
I probably need to have an orgasm, and I'm probably too engrossed in work or whatever whatever I'm focusing my attention on, and I'm ignoring a part of myself that's asking to be fed.
I love that. And I think that's so important. And also taking it from the beginning, what you said, that if you tune in, if you allow your body to guide you, then it will tell you. It will not. We have that misconception that if I allow my body to guide me, I will only eat junk food and chocolate and candy and cake all day.
Not the truth.
And that is not true. And the reason this happens is because we have said no. We create so much tension around that we make all those foods bad and forbidden. So the minute you make something forbidden, of course, it will become more desirable. So when you take that out, though, when you allow yourself, when everything is allowed, you just take that tension off and you allow your body to guide you. And it's amazing how, it will tell you when it wants what. It will go for green things, and it will go for very healthy things, and it will go for more unhealthy things, and it will go for everything, but it will just be balanced. And there will be no tension and pressure to avoid that or go for that.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that you said is also very important. When you've given yourself, in terms of food, what your body is longing for, and then there's the craving still there to go for more, and because the more you tune in, the more you can recognize when it is something that your body wants to eat and when there's something else going on.
Absolutely.
So when you realize that the craving is still there, you just take a moment and tune in with yourself and see what is happening. Are you longing for more pleasure? Is there something emotionally that you don't want to feel or process? What is really going on? And then you can take it from there.
Absolutely. I love that. I think your work is so, so important.
Thank you.
I know so many people that struggle on even I work with body love, but there's sometimes it's too deep for me even, that really need to go deeper because it's something so much more psychological. And it sounds so simple, like just listen to your body. Like it sounds so simple, and it would be if we were taught to do that, but no one teaches us how to live here. People teach us how to live, but they don't teach us how to live here. There's no instruction. And if our first examples are not embodied examples, then we kind of stumble around hitting walls until we get either to a place where there's no choice but to listen.
Yeah.
And some people, when they get to that place, that's when the extremes happen, because they still are not ready or comfortable with doing deep work.
Yeah.
Because easy is what people, I understand ease. I love ease, but we would like for everything to be, I guess it's probably not even easy. We would like for things to be automatic.
Right. Yes. And going back to what you were saying about medicating all those things. Yeah. And again, all the dieting thing is also a self-medication from one perspective, because again, you're not tuning in, you're not seeing where you're neglecting yourself. Why? Because in dieting and in that compulsive dieting thing, or the emotional eating and all that, the core belief that we have is that we are not enough as we are. So we have to either shape our bodies or drop the pounds or drop a few dress sizes to be enough and deserving. And when you start from that place, nothing good will come in the end. So this is the place to start from. How do you bring some healing and acceptance to yourself so that you feel enough and deserving and sensual and beautiful and confident now, and then do all the rest? Absolutely. This is the starting point.
I agree. When you were saying that, I started thinking about how we also have this compulsion to muddy up celebration. Like every bride spends a year before her wedding torturing herself, getting ready for the wedding.
Yes. Yeah.
Or the big birthday, like those milestone birthdays, people do the same thing. I'm turning 40. I need to lose 50 pounds.
Yes.
Or we muddy up even celebration with this shaming thing. This idea that we aren't enough as we are, that we have to be different. For the bride, he asked you to marry him when you were fat. You know what I'm saying? Like he asked you were already fat. And
I
he
so
still wanted
agree.
to marry you.
And yeah, you know, and if he doesn't want to marry you when you're fat, then maybe it's not a very good idea. You
Exactly.
know?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
I totally agree with you. And it's just, you know, it's part of that collective talk and way of talking and treating our bodies that I'd love to see changed. There is this way of speaking about and treating our bodies that has become somehow very, very sadly the norm.
yes.
We're desensitized to that. We hear it all around. Women blaming their bodies, talking really in a very harsh way about their bodies, pinching their bodies in front of the mirror, you know, going into extreme diets and all that. And that has become normal
Yeah.
somehow. And I'd love to see that changed. I'd love to see the collective discussion shifting.
I think it's happening. I mean, it's
Yeah.
slow. It's,
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine getting to this place was slow also. We just,
Mhm.
of course, that's not our experience because it was already here. But,
Yes.
you know, like I believe that the shift is happening through
Mhm.
conversations like this, through like the work that you're doing, even just having complimenting a woman in the grocery store who you don't know if she is feeling how she's feeling, but just saying like, hey, I think your hair looks amazing, or that dress looks so wonderful on you. Like
Mhm.
those little things, it seems so simple, but
Yeah.
just seeing one another, like
Mhm.
really seeing one another. And just to go back to what you said about like women connecting, because our bodies are not only, the female body is designed to be pleased, you know, like we've got the only organ that has no other job but to experience pleasure. Like how juicy is that? Like we are so fortunate. So like we've
Oh,
got
we
that,
are.
you know, like that's a big deal. It's like the clit doesn't do anything else but
Yeah.
experience.
Oops. Um, I lost you for some reason. I can't hear you. Stacy?
Pleasure. And it's
I know.
clearly the internet did not want to listen to me talk about clits being pleasurable.
Censorship.
Exactly. But I was just saying that, you know, like the female body is so designed to please, but the female body is also so in tune with nature that
Yeah.
it is also designed to connect with each other. And that's why we vibe together so well. You know, our periods sync up and all these delicious
Yes.
things. And
Yeah.
so the same way that we're so quick to cut another woman down, I really believe that the only way to heal this gaping body shame wound that we have is by connecting with other women. And that was also one of the reasons that I wanted to start this conversations, because I really thought, you know, it's so important connecting with other women. It's not accidental that we can feel each other so deeply.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we connect on such a deep level. Like I live in a house with my daughter and my sister, and like clockworks, our periods are like that. Sometimes my sister is like, my back is hurting. Whose period is coming? And I'm like, hey,
That's
you know, like
incredible.
because we're so connected and we're so in
Yeah.
tune. So I love that what you said about like women coming together, because I think that that is so vital to this movement. I think that the shift is only going to happen if we actually reach back and pull up another woman, and that each woman has to do that.
Mm-mm-mm. Oh, I think that's really, really, oops. Just a second, it's gonna get better. Okay. So yes, I think that's so important. And simply because, as we were saying before, unfortunately, we're used to that talk, that discussion that goes on and on. And instead of supporting each other and lifting each other up, we add to the problem, we contribute to the problem. So only by going back to that sisterhood place. Yeah. And I love that more and more, all those approaches of women coming together and sisterhoods being formed and the red tents and, you know, all those traditional ancient approaches are coming back to life in a modern way. But the whole idea is to bring women together that are focused on the same thing. And it becomes much more natural. And in those spaces, it's all about supporting each other in getting more in tune with our bodies and being natural and being ourselves, which is something I love. And there was something about what you were saying in terms of complementing each other, which is so important. This is something we don't often do. And if we do it, it's always attached to losing weight. Yeah. You're looking good. You've lost weight. How would it be? What if you saw somebody who had gained weight but looked great and you told them you look great? There was actually, what if we just detached, you know, the compliment from putting on or losing weight? How would that be? And I always remember my brother who, you know, he has a very healthy relationship with his body and never had issues like that. And when I was struggling and he knew, he was telling me, you know, but when I put on weight and I look at myself in the mirror, I don't say, oh my God, look how awful that looks on me. I say, look how good I look with the weight that I've put on. Look how good it's come on my body everywhere and how good I still look. And that's not, you know, from the perspective of neglecting yourself and just putting on weight without noticing, but it's mostly about what you choose to pay attention to. What do you see when you look in the mirror?
Absolutely. Because our attention, I think our attention makes the difference in everything. You know, attention is what makes a moment spiritual. You know, attention is what makes a moment sensual, because you're breathing anyway. But if your attention is on it, it becomes a sensual experience. Then your breath becomes an offering. You know, so like our attention, even with sex, like whether your physical body is engaged is one thing, but whether your heart is engaged is a matter of where you're putting your attention. So like, I think that is so important, and what we focus on grows. And so often, just wouldn't it be nice if the person that you met in the mirror was kind to you every day? You know, like, wouldn't that be amazing? Nice? Because the most incredible and the worst body shamer of all is always the woman in the mirror.
That is so true. And it is very sad. You know, it is very sad that we can get so harsh with ourselves. But something that, you know, that made a big difference in my own experience in terms of that is to realize that this voice, this critical, very harsh voice that plays in the background of our minds all day long, especially when we look in the mirror, is not really our own. It has come from somewhere else. It has been developed from different messages and influences that we've picked up on throughout our lives. So that is a huge thing. And it is a process, a very liberating and life-changing process of how do you disconnect and detach, disidentify from that voice. It is not you that is speaking in that moment. You've picked this up from somewhere, but likewise, you can disconnect. You can give it back to where it came from.
I love that. I've so enjoyed you, Stella, and I want to honor your time. So I have a couple of quick questions. So what's your favorite smell?
Vanilla.
I do. Vanilla is actually the most, it's one of those smells. It's hard to find someone that doesn't enjoy it. And
I know.
I think that it's infused in a lot of things that we don't realize because it enhances flavor so well. So I love vanilla.
I love vanilla. Yeah, that's a nice question. Let's bring on some more vanilla.
You can embrace it today, right? So
absolutely.
What sound turns you on?
My partner's voice.
Oh, I like that. Let's see. What sensation, what texture brings you pleasure?
Velvet.
I love velvet too. I love the way it kind of it feels fuzzy, but not.
Yes. it can't bad be sensual.
Oh,
it's velvet.
Yes. And how about your favorite taste? Salty, sweet, umami?
I'll go with sweet. Absolutely. Sweet. I love sweet taste. And now that it's not guilty, I just love sweet.
Look, let them eat cake for free.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost you any emotional charge. You know, like it can be free. Oh my goodness, I just love it. Well, I have so enjoyed you, Stella. Please tell everyone where they can follow you, about your website, anything you're launching, like how can we connect with you?
So my website is over at www.bodyprema.com. You can find on there everything about me, my programs, my offerings, my blog, anything is on there. And I'd also love for you to join me on Facebook. I've very recently created a group which is called Body Prema Sisterhood, and is all about doing just that, bringing women that are focused on breaking free from dieting and emotional eating and loving their bodies. So you can find that at www.facebook.com/groups/Body Prema Sisterhood, or you can just search for that. I'd love for you to join us. It's a really lovely space with a beautiful group of women. I'm also on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, many platforms. If you just search Body Prema, then you'll come across me. Everywhere there. And I really look forward to connecting with you. Thank you so much.
I'm joining the group today.
Oh, great. Yay.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to seeing you in there. And thank you so much for this talk today. I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
One of my favorite feeling right now is nourished. And I feel so nourished from this conversation. I feel so expansive. I can't wait to watch the playback so that I can take notes, because you receive things differently as a listener than a participant. So I can't wait to take notes, because everything that you talked about is exactly where I'm digging into, where I'm kind of exploring right now. So I'm really like, the universe is so great at setting the timing for everything perfectly, because this was just what I needed. So I'm
so happy to hear that. And I loved connecting with you. I love connecting with women that are on this mission. I just love it. And many more voices and beautiful beings are coming on board, which is amazing. And thank you so much for holding the space for me today. Thank you.
I appreciate you so very much. And I appreciate all of you for joining us. Thank you for showing up and for hanging out, for tweeting. We had some people come in and out, so I'm really glad about that. And I look forward to talking again next week. So thank you. And if you are interested in being a guest on the This Is Somebody conversation series, you can tweet me at Stacy N. Herrera, or you can send me an email at stacy@stacyherrera.com. Excellent. Thank you so much, Stella. Have a fantastic evening, because it's evening for you.
It is evening for me. Yes.
So enjoy.
Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day over there.
Yes, it's still light out here, but you do something pleasurable. Go please yourself in some delicious way.
I will. I'll get my vanilla. So much love.
Bye.
Bye-bye.